Hello and welcome to Reviews of Ryan. Today I'm going to be talking about the brand new biography drama film, The Electrical Life of Louis Wain. This is directed by Will Sharp. I want to thank you guys for clicking on this video. If you like all kinds of movie content, consider subscribing to the channel, smash that like button, and comment if you're interested in seeing this biography drama film. Now without further ado, let's jump into my review. The Electrical Life of Louis Wain is about English artist Louis Wain and his rise of fame during the 19th century with his cat paintings that seem to reflect his declining sanity. The film stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Claire Foy, Sharon Rooney, Andrea Riseborough, Toby Jones, and Amy Lou Wood. This film came out in late October. It dropped on Amazon Prime back in early November, and I just got around to seeing it. I wish I would have saw this film sooner. This is a really fantastic film. I really enjoyed this film and how we got to learn all about this Louis Wain character. I really didn't know anything about him going into this film, and this film really put in perspective what kind of man this guy was. You know, you learn early on in this film that he is kind of a timid and kind of shy kind of guy. He has trouble making connections with people and having kind of any type of love connection with people. He's really a fast mover. He kind of moves from job to job. He's like a drifter with jobs, and he really likes to do illustrations, and he kind of finds his niche with painting cats. He first kind of starts painting dogs, and then he starts painting cats. He does all these different illustrations, and he's just really into art and really into kind of capturing different kind of art pieces with animals. And the biggest thing with his art pieces is he's kind of suffers through a lot of different hardships throughout the film, and every time he suffers into these hardships, he kind of makes it with his artistry, with his different work pieces on kind of how he's feeling. He'll have some darker pieces, he'll have some brighter pieces, and it just really represented him as a whole, as just an artist in general. Then you learn that he lives with his sister and his mother, and he's taking on the financial responsibility for his family and just providing for them. And then he also meets the love of his life, and you find out how he meets her and kind of what goes down. And when he eventually moves out, you see that he kind of takes care of his mother and gives his mother money, because not all the time he's really taking care of his family to the fullest, because he's not always right in the mind. He's always got something kind of going on. He's a very fast-paced kind of guy as far as what he wants to do. He's kind of always drifting back and forth on what he wants to do and in and out of jobs, and he's just one of those people that is just kind of all over the place. And then I really like the fact that this takes place in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. They had carriages back then. I like that the costume designs. I like how they kind of made the scenery in this film. They have some really good shots. There's a little bit of CGI in this, but for the most part, there's some real authentic shots in this, and I really enjoyed that about the film. I really enjoyed that we get this scenery and we get this whole painted picture of what was life back then, because that's just such a long time ago, and really to even dream about that kind of life back then, it had to be really tough for a lot of people, especially since the fact that women weren't really prominent to having jobs back then. The men are supporting them. So it's just really interesting to see how life was back then and how it differs to today's type of time. And then to add on about the shots in this film, they do a really good job of the colors, having light with light and dark with dark. And then they even put a little tint of yellow in this. Now, as far as the music in this film, it's very kind of classical, very much having a lot of violin to it, very much classical, very kind of soft kind of music, definitely typical with this kind of film that you would see. And as far as the performances in this film, Benedict Cumberbatch, he does a really phenomenal job in this film. I really loved his performance. I like Claire Foy as well. She does a really good job. I think the performances in this are very good and one of the best of the year for me. This film is definitely in my top 10 right now. I really just enjoyed how this film was shot, how they really just put this film together. It really makes me want to learn more about Louis Wain. I feel like we learn a lot about Louis Wain in this film, and I didn't want to spoil it in this review because there's just so much information about him. I would also like to see if maybe there's any books about him. I definitely am interested in learning a little bit more about his life. Maybe he has an autobiography out there or something along the lines of different information for him would be really cool to kind of dive into, because I really just enjoyed this biography film about his life. So with that in mind, the only negative that I have about this film is during the third act, it gets a little bit slow and it gets a little bit too much and kind of slowing down a little bit. But other than that, I really don't have any gripes with this film. It was a very good film to me, and I'm gonna give it a score of 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think you guys should check this film out. Let me know if you do check this film out. I really enjoyed this film, guys, and I hope you guys do as well. Thank you guys for tuning into this review, and I'll see you guys on my next review.